Welcome to BNEWS Special Report. I'm Phil Gallagher, and my guest today is James McNiff. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Phil.
James is a eclectic individual. He is an author, an artist, a professor. Are you an engineer in the? No, not an engineer in the computer business.
No,
okay.
no. I do buy crazy stuff on AI.
A political gadfly, I might add, if you've read some of his letters to the editor here at BCAT and other places. So you're retired, you moved here 13 years ago, and suddenly you had nothing to do except everything to do, right?
Okay.
Yes,
right.
You're a self-published author with 33 volumes on Amazon, as well as 350 YouTube videos.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
You've been busy. You've been busy.
Yeah, I don't watch sports that often.
I don't blame you. Well, let's start from the beginning. You grew up in the Bronx.
Yes, I did.
Where did you go to school? Where did you matriculate collegiately?
I grew up in the Bronx. I went to college in New Rochelle, Iona College. And then I went for my master's degree at Pace University in New York. My undergraduate was in accounting. My master's degree was in computer science.
That's a leap.
That was
from a bean counter to a,
well,
what do you call those?
That's another story.
To a bit counter, from a bean counter to a bit counter. I like that.
That's what I kind of moved into. And I worked at Montefiore Medical Center for 39 years. And working there, I had the opportunity to do almost all the jobs I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. You know, on the finance side, on the IT side, I installed software and all. And it was a great place to work. It had a great mission, and it's still doing terrific for the Bronx. Right. When I was married, I had a child, my son, and I moved out of the Bronx, and I moved into Irvington, New York. Right. One of the sleepy towns alongside the Hudson.
If there are any in New York left.
Yeah, I think this one may still. Yeah. I looked at it recently and said, wow, it looks like the same, you know, because it is congested a little bit because it was never really that big to begin with. And eventually my manager on my softball team, and I was like in my 40s, said, Jim, one of the people on the board left. Would you like to be on the board? So I did the board for 2 years.
Yes, there's always a bad answer for those. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I did the board of trustees in my town for a bit. Mm-hmm. I was always on the board of my co-op. Mm-hmm. I've been on the board of my condo currently in Burlington off and on 3 times. And when I feel they have a little financial pinch, I go in and find them some money.
Great. Yeah. So tell us about your soiree or foray into the computer science business.
Oh, into computer science? Mm-hmm. Oh, you mean the recent?
No, when you made the transition from accounting.
When I made the transition, one of the reasons was that they fired everybody that was above me. They fired all the managers, the CFO. They had financial problems in 1985. And
didn't everybody?
Everybody, and I was left because I had switched from accounting. They said, oh, I want to work on the system installing the accounting software. Mm-hmm. So they said, yeah, okay, you can move out of that accounting spot, thank goodness.
So you became the chief technology?
I became the manager of installing that software. Mm-hmm. And then there was no one to give the software to because everyone from the CFO up to the president were gone. And I said, I'll go for that job because that was a revenue. I knew I wanted to be on the revenue side, not on the expense side of business.
Right, because they were targets.
They were targets. Yeah. So I was on the revenue side, and then that was my job for the period of time. The cash, we started really doing well. I put some discipline into the process, and I had a great team. I mean, unbelievable team. And then at the point in the career, it was doing well, and they were running the ship. And I said, oh, I got a daughter up in Winchester, grandkids. My son's out in San Diego with grandkids, so I had a choice. Right. People look at me when I tell them, and you chose Massachusetts.
Yeah, well, I would do the same. California looks to me like a trash truck right at the moment.
Oh, you're right, but San Diego's pretty.
Yeah, but the fleet's there at least.
Oh, the fleet is there. And so I then decided to come up here, and I've enjoyed I've been going to hockey games, which in the Bronx, you didn't have hockey, you didn't ice skate, you ran away or whatever you did. And
well, your grandson is playing for Winchester.
he played, he just he played all 4 years in high school.
And I hope you saw a lot of Burlington victories during that time.
Well, you had a great year.
Yeah.
You beat them this
Yeah.
year. I think you beat them 4-2 or something. I wasn't in town at the time. And I have a granddaughter who now is a freshman, but she made the varsity softball team. Very proud of her. She's really works hard at it. And so I'm going to games here and on. But always the focus since I retired was, and even when I had to work, when I get up, because of even now as I'm older, your energy is really your best when you get up and ready to go.
Right.
So I don't do anything else. I do 2 or 3 hours, and I get it's structured time, and then I go in. Okay, what am I writing about today? Am I doing a newspaper article? You know, am I interested in a subject in town?
Right.
Do I want to write about it?
Well, you got your master's.
Yeah. Okay.
So there was a lot of writing there, but were you a natural writer? Did you decide you wanted to write history or fiction or whatever?
You've asked for the story, Phil. So here's the story. I'm a freshman in college at Iona, and my very first paper I had to do was in my English class. And my brother, who was a hippie at the time, eventually became a Marine, but he was...
What? You'll have to talk about that transition.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that. So he was taking typing as a junior in high school while I was taking physics, all the other stuff. And he said, leave your paper on the table. That was late at night. I finished it off. He goes, leave it there, brother. I could type that up for you. I just load it up in the paper, manila thing, hand it to the professor. Next, whatever, a few days later, I get the grade. I always told my grandkids this. I said, you ever hear of an F minus? That's what he gave me.
So much for hippie typists, right?
He split every word, every infinitive. And the guy didn't, I think he had to use 2 red pens to mark on my paper. I said, so that didn't get me on the move. But I think gradually, I liked writing, but I wasn't really big into telling a story. I think this is more about telling a story. And when I started doing my own genealogy, when I was probably about 25 years ago, and it was a little tough on my paternal side, little difficulties in Ireland during that time, and for my father, and I couldn't get anywhere. I visited Ireland twice already, going to this town, and it's still very difficult to find anything. But in doing that, I would bump into other people either with my name or not my name, but they had an interesting story, even though they're not related to me. And then I started branching out, and I said, we all have stories in our lives.
Sure.
And you'd be surprised when...
Some would like to keep buried, yeah.
Well, another story. So I did the Cardinal Dolan. You know Cardinal Dolan?
New York, yeah.
I did his ancestry. He's written me a great letter back. But he said in the bottom of the letter, he goes, could you please keep this private?
I'm sure. There must have been a Protestant somewhere back there, right?
Well, there was
Calvinist.
I think I could tell a little bit of stories, but he also had a cardinal in his family in Chicago, and that's all I could say.
That's it.
That's it. Otherwise, somebody will come running after me. Yeah, so I started doing genealogy, and that's when I made a connection at the Boston Globe, and I did Tom Brady's, I did Bill Belichick's. The one I'm really proud of, which I brought a picture for because just to show you.
Let's hold that up here. Yeah. Can we see that?
Can you see
that?
that?
Director. Yep, there we go, right here.
All right, there you go. See that picture?
Yeah. Who's in there?
Okay, this is the question for you. So we have in 2019, the Yankees played the Boston Red Sox, the very first game in London ever, a baseball game in 2019. You have Prince Harry, and the Duchess, and they come into each the locker rooms. So they went through the Yankee locker room with little baby outfits because she had just had her baby. They come in here, and Mookie Betts all of a sudden runs out of the line. I had done Mookie Betts a year ago in the Globe, connected him to Meghan Markle. He didn't say a word to me, Mookie, during the whole thing. And he actually downplayed it when he was interviewing. Oh, I got to play on baseball. I'm not concerned about this. He jumps out of the line when she gets in front and goes, cousin! And he wrapped his arms around her. And I said, that's it. This thing caught on all over the place. I saw my name, and they were trying to do my name in France or wherever it was. And I go, oh, it was, it's a special.
Fortuitous.
Fortuitous, that's right, fortuitous. So I did his, and I've done Bob De Niro's. So I found out where his mother was in Ireland. Never didn't know where if he was Irish or not. But as I was doing that, then I said, oh, some of those stories could be expanded upon. And maybe I'll do, a book, a story. And this was my this is a different one, but this is
Very first one.
my very first one. I was in here. Could be out
It's
at
down the bottom?
missing. Oh, I think it's probably in my bag.
Well,
I'll leave it.
yeah.
We'll do.
Tell us the
Well,
story.
oh, here he is.
Okay, good.
This one is it's called Under the Radar. Little did I know.
Historical fiction.
Well, I would almost call
Where
that
are
one
we?
nonfiction, but okay, well, it is a
We'll
fiction.
go
I always
there.
touch it up.
Okay.
This one, it's the title I didn't realize. I picked the title and then I go on the internet. I go, oh, I wonder if anybody's used Under the Radar. There's like 5,000 books
Right.
Under the Radar, but I said I did it anyhow. This about two young men that I ran into that are from Ireland, and one of them is a very close friend of Robert Kennedy. And he actually was the story of his life. He, at the age of 22, when they were going through the sessions with Robert Kennedy as a counsel and his brother John as a senator, were going against the mafia as for what they were doing with the unions in New York.
Right.
They
right.
called them paper unions. where
Right.
you
I
gave them
recall
money.
those Senate hearings too.
The Senate
Yeah.
hearing.
Right.
The boy in this, which he was, I consider him, he's 22 years old, stood up in the middle with the bad guys behind him, and John Kennedy and JFK and Robert Kennedy in front of him, and the rest of the dais. And he read and said, these people behind me have been ripping off the Puerto Ricans who live in the Bronx, who are paying all the, they're giving them money for the union, get no benefits, don't get sick leave, don't get this. And he just nails them all down.
Right.
And there's
Now,
an affidavit.
JFK was the president at that time, right?
This is
RFK.
1950.
Oh, 50s.
Yeah, this
well,
is
what
the
was
50s.
Robert doing? Because he wasn't
He was
the
a
attorney
counsel.
general. Oh, he was counsel. I see.
He was a
counsel
counsel
for that
for the
Senate
group.
hearing.
Yeah, for the Senate hearing. And actually, so when Robert Kennedy, when he was looking to move further up in his political career, he brought this guy that stood in front of everybody and said, you're going to be one of my army.
Right.
And the people that worked for Robert Kennedy, similar to this fella, were very humble, well, low profile. When he died, Ted Kennedy wanted to do the eulogy up in Poughkeepsie, New York. The family said, we appreciate it, but we don't want to
Any
have
more
that
attention.
attention to it. However, they did get attention because everybody who was Puerto Rican who lived in the Bronx who was impacted by him drove up that day to Poughkeepsie.
To
The funeral of this
Yeah.
young man.
I hope he died by natural causes.
Okay. That's where the story is a little different.
A little different.
Yeah, it gets, well, he dies at the age of 35. He has 5 kids already. He one night gets out of his consulting job in Washington, D.C., where they have the Logan, the parking lot where you come out. His car had no brakes. He went right into one of the walls, went right through the window, and was deceased, died.
Yeah.
And
Any investigation?
the mother, this is the strangest one. So the mother is advised to go meet with a lawyer to see, to dig into it a little bit further. Well, no, not her, but I mean, no, I got to get confused because there's 2 men in here.
Yeah.
The fellow that had the accident that died, I went and visited his family in Poughkeepsie because his brother was still alive. This is going back 15 years. And one brother believes he was murdered. Another one says, I don't think so. His sister is one of the richest women in, was a head of a bank at that time. She didn't want any part of it. She didn't want me to call her, didn't want to talk about it.
Right.
So I couldn't get down to that. But the second man in this is an Irish step dancer. It's almost the same time. And the step dancer is known as the McNiff dancers. They were They would come on Ed Sullivan, if you knew Ed Sullivan in those days. And he, while this fellow was giving his testimony, this guy was dancing. He was going to be at down in New York City to dance, and he doesn't show up. He was thrown onto the train tracks that night when he was coming on the subway system.
Because he was a friend of this guy.
Don't know. See,
Right,
that's what led me into kind of like telling stories that I don't want to say they're conspiracy theories, but there were ones that you get enough facts and
question marks.
Question marks, right? They'd make it, not the end of it, but some.
Well, we're in our 70s. How many people do you know that have ever had brakes fail to the extent that you would be in a fatal accident?
And it happened to be going down an area where they know the turns are like this.
Right.
Well,
right.
you could go like this and run into a wall, but this was it was a year after Robert Kennedy was killed. And I believe that Robert Kennedy saved him the years he had alive, because he weren't going to touch him because of. But that's my
Mafia,
supposition.
The only thing they don't forget is the grudge.
That's
right?
why I don't tell anybody I wrote this. Please.
well, thankfully our exposure here at BCAT is not global by any. I'm trying, but unless I do something really stupid,
I know, you listen
maybe
to me.
appear naked, whatever. I might get on the YouTube. But let's talk about now. You flipped from genealogy into fiction.
This is your neighbor. This is the book from your town next door in Winchester.
From Winchester history.
History, and this idea was given to me by a 12-year-old boy now who's the same age as my grandson, so he must be 18 now. I used to take my grandson to ice skating Flynn arena practice. This boy would always come over because he would. Oh, I never gave it to him. He would come over. I would draw, because I also draw. I would draw the faces of the kids, and I said one night, I said, "Hey, let's put that to the side," because he was asking me. I said, "Tell me about your grandfather. Do you know anything about your family?" And he was surprised me. He goes, "Yeah, my grandfather was there," and he said it like it was important to him. And I said, "Oh, that's great." So I went home and I took what he gave me, and I said, "Let me go see if and I did it, and I found his great-grandmother, and the great-grandmother was a servant in Winchester. And then I looked at the records, the census records, that section. They call it the flats or whatever down in the where it's like Fletcher Street, or the ones that are just all big homes on straightaway. It turned out to be almost every house in 1900 had an Irish maid. I came up with 20, 25 maids. Some had 2 Irish maids. So I said, let me tell the story of what it would have been if you were around then and you were in the middle of this life that was going on for them. And it was also the Irish men that were in the tanneries.
Right.
And that's where in the St. Mary's Church.
Well, it was the height of Irish immigration at that period.
Yeah, and it was St. Mary's Church, was getting built. So that led me to this story.
Okay.
So it's what somebody tells me.
Next up, when do we get to fiction? Because I know you got a 13-part series.
Yes.
I'll Convocation of Shadows.
Which is probably maybe too contemporary right now, but I'll just do this one quick. This is This is the voyeur of O'Connell Street. O'Connell Street is the main street in Dublin, and on that street is the Grisham Hotel. Grisham. I wrote this book.
Voyeur, that has a negative connotation. Was he smooth? I mean, was he buying drinks at the bar?
Could have been. Well, that turns out to be part of the people that are in this book. It's told. You'll get the point now when I tell you who tells the story. It's told by the building. The building has a voice. Right. This building is over 200 years old. It's gone through the history of Ireland. You see, got a little bit of Irish going in.
Right,
through this stuff.
I see that. McNiff, I'm not surprised.
It kind of works its way in. And so as on the street where you have this hotel, and the hotel's telling you this story, you go through the building of Dublin. I go all the way back to the 1600s and how it got, even before the building. The building says I was now born at this date and how I got born. But in the 60s, they would get all the movie stars who were making movies. They go to Dublin when they were doing it out. And they had Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, if you remember. Those are the ones of our year that had the violent love affairs. They would be fighting one day, Next day, they'd be throwing things at each other.
Well, Roy Orbison wrote that
Okay.
even during the Troubles, he would always go there and play in various barns and whatnot. Didn't matter what the violence was, and he was always, well received there. He wrote one spot, one piece where the building was so packed that he would finish a tune and they couldn't applaud because there wasn't enough room to clap their hands. Yeah, so they
That's
were
pretty
starving for entertainment at that point in time,
That's
with the
pretty-
bullets flying, etc.
Oh yeah, and that's what this tells, is that it talks about the Easter Rising and actually the people that were part of the military or the fighting showed up in this hotel at different periods of night.
Mhm.
They either had one had a love affair and they would meet at this hotel. And actually she tells the story, the voyeur tells the story. I love to hear when so and so showed up because my walls would just go crazy. So
okay,
you want
so now we're on Convocation of Shadows.
All right.
13-part series. Is that all 13?
Yeah, I
Okay.
made one book.
One book.
And in order to make the one book, you have to give a note in the front that says there are 12 others prior. Don't buy them. I said,
Just
and
buy
you just
one.
note it. Yeah, buy one.
Yeah.
So if I were to ask you what you've heard lately in the world of AI and the development, you probably have maybe heard one or two of these stories. I wrote this in January. This is written by 5 AIs, all the well-knowns, Grok, ChatGPT, Copilot, 5 of them.
Right.
And what I did, I was the master. I call it orchestration. What-
So this is a collaboration for
Me
you with them.
with them.
Or it's.
It's with its.
Yeah.
And I would do it like a map where I had an idea where we're going to start, and every chapter I would kind of say, okay, this is how I want it to play out a bit, but I don't want to create the dialogue, but this is what's going on, the feelings and all that kind of.
So you
Question.
would enter, looking for a paragraph or a chapter?
I would actually tell them, what I would do, this is strange, I would take, let's say it was Grok was one of the ones I used to write a chapter, or at least 4 of them to write one. I would take what Grok wrote, I feed it into one other one, and say, what do you think
Refine
about
this?
your friend? And the most of them said, they did a good job,
But let me add,
Let's do it.
let me put my 2 cents in
And I
there.
used to have to tell one of them, because no matter, one of the AIs would always come back to me and say, Jim, I could finish that chapter. And I would have to write, I've told you, you're not doing this chapter, back off.
Well, I'm not real familiar with how these things work.
Well-
I am familiar from a standpoint of warfare,
Well,
asymmetric warfare
yeah,
and how that's
well,
being
this is
effective.
really dealing with what's in the news today. I think it's in the last 2 weeks, there have been attacks. There's been an attack on one of the owners of the AI company. Yeah,
right.
there was a
Is this
bomb.
over Anthropic?
No. Anthropic is, they're the ones that are wanting to, they've pulled back software because they're really concerned about security
Right.
and where this is going,
Right.
especially as you mentioned, into the military, because the government dropped them and took on OpenAI.
Right.
But
Right. Well, there was a problem. Well, I guess the problem was the Defense Department wanted to put restrictions in on this thing because it's, what was the thing in the Terminator? Something that, Skynet. They're afraid it's going to turn into Skynet, I guess.
it's spooky in a way. I've been following it for at least 2 years. I've watched almost every video on YouTube, which is great, even to learn how to do plumbing. But also, if you watch enough of the views of people, the owners and the ones that are saying this is what could happen, this is what we think is the great part, this we think is going to be the disaster if you do it, and then you kind of put them together. And this one, like 2 weeks ago, they attempted to blow up a data center. I had that in my book. I didn't mean to do it, but
You don't want to get a visit from
I know,
Homeland
some blame
Security.
me.
Right. Right.
You caused, no, I didn't cause it, but I call it a real-time fiction, meaning it's a story that has characters that are not real. I mean, they're real positions, because somebody's a president, but it deals with understanding the complication of this whole thing we're going through, but done in a fictional way, where you could read it and you go, wow, this, what happens next?
Could
What happens
happen,
next?
right.
Could happen.
Well, let me ask you a real-time question. You're a computer science guy. The last data center I think that I saw Musk was building had 100,000 NVIDIA chips, which is the top of the line of microprocessors, right?
Right.
What is the top line of this thing? I mean, suppose you put 1 million NVIDIA chips into one of these data system centers. What is the ultimate capability of these things?
Well, if you took one of the videos of I forget his Hespion, some of their last names, but he's an owner like Musk, multi-billionaire who owns the system. He goes, I hope in the short term we could figure out how to get empathy into these systems, because these systems are going to be smarter than us. They are. I mean, right now it's just memorization. This is just digital data that they've collected, but they're going to be able to eventually do a lot of the jobs that we do, which was part of my concern when I did this, because I started reading more about, and that they say the white collar jobs, and I have my grandson graduating, so I got concerned, and it actually gave me a little incentive to dig deeper into it. But you have, you got the robots coming out, and they're coming out fast.
Yeah, I saw one running in the marathon, not the
marathon.
Yeah. The 5K.
You see it right in the 5K.
Yeah.
They're doing incredible stuff.
Winning.
That's the point. That's exactly answering your question.
Yeah.
That's where it's all trying to get to.
Yeah.
The winning.
Well, the problem is, from my perspective, is I often ask myself the question is, if somebody asked this AI that has a tremendous amount of power externally, how would we improve the earth? And if he decided that, get rid of us would be the improvement.
That is actually one of the scenarios.
Yeah.
They have said that the way you interpret it is that what they think could happen. And the ones who are coming out against AI are the ones who built it, which is the strangest. The guys that are our age, that were in the original, are going, we went too far. It was like building the bomb. What was the
Right, what's his name?
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer came out afterwards.
Afterward. And that's what these people are doing.
Yeah.
And they're trying to slow down the industry. But and even as of yesterday or something, I was listening to podcasts where they said it's the governments. Everybody's saying our governments right now, we're so busy on other topics, we're not really dealing with the control of this.
We only have 2 minutes,
Okay.
and one of the major topics I want to discuss with you is you have a quote that says you don't write books for profit. You're a self publisher.
That's right.
You have all your books on Amazon. They can be bought for very cheap money. First of all, why are you not interested in profit? And secondly, tell us about anybody out there who wants to self-publish.
Yeah. Why am I not interested in profit? Because actually I'm not doing it. The purpose is not to do it for a profit. The purpose is to find a story, and then I'll just write it. And whether you buy it or don't buy it, I really don't care. But
for your own enjoyment.
But that leads into self-publishing, because self-publishing says the commitment is you don't have to sell it. For Amazon, all I pay is the cost or I charge you, or if you're going to buy it, is what they charge me. To put this together, that probably costs some money to do. Right. But then I have a book myself.
But you've got stuff on there for 89 cents, for $4.30, whatever.
The $4.30 is based on Amazon saying that's the minimum you could charge for your book.
For that particular book, for that iteration.
I charge $4.31.
Well, they must be making money.
Well, I just did my tax return. You get a return on royalties. I had 11 cents. I'm not getting rich.
Are you getting anything on your YouTube videos?
No.
No royalties there either.
No royalties there either. No.
Well, check out James McNiff's YouTube. He's got 350 on there, which has a good deal of his artwork, which is iPad-driven, stylus-driven.
Yeah, I did it with my finger on an iPad. And then I buy the music for $1.50, and I find music that matches, and I match it up.
Well, we could go do a half an hour on all of that, but unfortunately we've run out of time. I'd like to thank our guest, Burlington resident and eclectic individual, political gadfly, writer, historian, etc. Thank you, James.
I appreciate it. It was really nice meeting you, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for joining us.